Hello and welcome to the 19th Scouching Report for the 2020 NHL Draft. Today we're going to be looking at Saginaw Spirit center Cole Perfetti, most recently ranked 5th amongst North American skaters by NHL Central Scouting. Perfetti is a player who I think is a little bit misinterpreted by the masses, especially the more modern side of hockey scouting. And he might be a player that some people might undervalue just because of the way that he might skate around the ice and just generally get around. But I do think there's a lot of value to a player like Perfetti, so let's find out why. So if you've never seen a Scouching Report before, the way that we break down a player is we look at 5 separate categories: think, move, get, pass, and shoot. Within each one of these categories, we give them a number and a letter grade, where the number from 1 through 4, with 1 being the highest, indicates the overall tier of talent that I saw across the 7 games that I tracked, and the letter indicates the overall consistency within that tier that I saw across those 7 games. So to get things started, we look at the think category, and with Cole Perfetti, this is a really nice part of his game. He's an extremely reliable two-way player that I would label as what I would call a conduit player, where a lot of transition offense flows through them in order to maintain possession. He's an excellent support player all over the ice who's able to get pucks to teammates reliably, move pucks up the ice with a lot of control a lot of the time, and set up play in the offensive zone, even if it might not show up in my dangerous passing metrics as much as some other people. He's an extremely unselfish player with the puck, able to spot teammates in the defensive zone and in transition extremely effectively, but at the same time, at a moment's notice in the offensive zone, Cole Perfetti can become one of the more dangerous scorers in all of junior hockey. He's a really well-refined player at both ends of the ice that doesn't try to do too much on his own stick. When it comes to tracking down loose pucks and moving pucks up the ice with control, he does a really good job of it, and his offensive vision and passing ability are really second to none. He can be a player who can take some time to hit his top speed, but it seems like he knows that is a limitation of his game, and he's more than willing to spot open teammates and just get the puck to them even if it's in the middle of a puck battle. He always seems to have that eyes on the back of your head instinct where he knows what's going on in the defensive zone and in the offensive zone, where he can just get the puck under control and maintain possession. There's also a sense of extreme calm with Perfetti's game, and I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing. He's not one of these players like a Jean-Luc Foudy who often holds onto the puck for so long that nothing ends up happening. Perfetti is willing to wait for something to develop around him while also maintaining possession extremely effectively. And this is also a trait of his when he's even facing a lot of pressure from defenders, which is something that for a lot of young players they might struggle with. If there's a lot of pressure on Cole Perfetti, he usually remains calm, makes the right move to open up some space and maybe look for a teammate in open ice, and usually he maintains possession doing so. He plays with a lot of determination and clearly shows a high work ethic out there on the ice, especially if there's a loose puck for him to go and pick up and move to a teammate and maintain possession. And I think this is a really interesting case of a modern possession forward for the National Hockey League moving forward. Not the flashiest skater that you've ever seen in your life, but really resilient, really determined with the puck, and really intelligent with how he manages the puck when it's on his stick. On the downside, he can be a little bit flat-footed in the defensive zone. It's not a terrible part of his game, but there is a bit of a weakness in his first few steps, and he might have trouble translating to the NHL right away without a little bit more explosivity in his step defensively. He sometimes lost track of opponents as they circled around the offensive zone, and as a center, he wasn't the type of center to really monitor the front of the net and clear that front of the crease area. He tended more to be a player that anticipated play and struck when the time was right to turn play around and use teammates effectively. So in the think category, I'm giving Cole Perfetti a 1B. I think he's a really smart player at both ends of the ice most of the time. It's really impressive to see such a highly talented player willing to be so unselfish and just do what is necessary to move the puck up the ice with control and maintain possession of it in the offensive zone. He's extremely resilient and determined when the puck is on his own stick, and I think there's a lot to like in this category for him. Perfetti was a great breakout conduit. The puck usually flowed through him and flowed through him effectively, and I think that's a great trait to work with moving forward for any top NHL pick. Next we go to the move category, and this is the area of the game where I think the most people have the most concern. I love guys who can fly around the ice at 100 miles an hour, and I wouldn't categorize Cole Perfetti as slow, but his skating certainly is a little bit awkward. It seems a little bit inefficient when it comes to straight line skating. He seems to carve a lot of ice under him and push sideways more than propel himself forward. But when it comes to edge work and skill with his hands, He's a premier example of why I treat the move category as not just how fast you are. It's about how you move around the ice in general with and without the puck. Some players can get away without being the fastest guys on the ice. Players in the NHL like John Tavares are extremely well known for being an elite level player without being an elite level skater, at least in his youth. Someone like Cole Perfetti really reminds me of a John Tavares in this area. He's really strong on his skates, he's really excellent with his edge work, and when it comes to maneuvering around the ice with control of the puck, at times he seems untouchable. And similar to a player like Marco Rossi, he's a player that has a ton of tools in his toolkit, but isn't constantly bringing them out just to show off what he can do. He knows what needs to be done in order to move the puck up the ice with control. And that's something that I really value. He's not trying to do too much, he's just doing what is right in order to keep possession and move play positively. And going off of this comparison to Marco Rossi, he did not match Marco Rossi's controlled offensive zone transition percentage of 82%, but he did come close with an 80%, and that's pretty remarkable on its own. And another benefit to Cole Perfetti in my tracking relative to Marco Rossi is that per 60 minutes he had 18% more pass attempts and completed 16% more passes. So pucks really like to flow through Cole Perfetti rather than Perfetti seeming to move pucks up the ice similar to a Marco Rossi did. And I don't think that there's a real right or wrong answer in terms of picking one or the other. I think if you're the type of coach who really likes a carrying-based offense with controlled possession without moving the puck too much via passing, then someone like Marco Rossi might be a little bit more attractive. Whereas if you're the coach who just doesn't care how the puck gets up the ice, and you like players where they receive the puck, find a passing option, and keep moving play up the ice with his passing, then someone like Cole Perfetti might be a better option. And while Cole Perfetti might not be the fastest guy on the ice all the time, I still did track him going blue line to blue line in 1.66 seconds. But the real bread and butter of his move category is going to be him when he has the puck on his stick and just how resilient he can be and how hard it is to knock pucks off of him. He can protect the puck extremely well, he's got great skill to create space between himself and defenders, and his intelligence can help him find open teammates all over the ice all of the time, and he did it with a lot of effectivity. So in the move category, I'm giving Cole Perfetti a 2A. This is probably the best 2A that I'll ever give in my life. The only thing holding him back, I think, is that skating stride being a little bit awkward. If he can work that out and combine that with his hands and his puck protection abilities, then he could most certainly be one of the best offensive players to come out of this draft looking back on it. He plays with a lot of patience and takes care of the puck really, really well, almost to the point of being untouchable at the OHL level. And while I'm optimistic about his future prospects, as of today there are some concerns about how that skill might translate against bigger, stronger, and smarter opponents at the next level. He might be a guy who takes the next year in the OHL to develop his skating a little bit better and develop a better acceleration gear, and the only thing holding him back right now is that there are players out there like Tim Stützle, Marco Rossi, and even a Jean-Luc Foudy who I think are more deserving of that number one category. Perfetti is not at all a slouch here, and there is nothing really negative to say about how he gets around the ice. There's just a few issues with his speed and his skating that I think might hold him back from that top category. Next we go to the get category, and this is where Perfetti's lack of explosivity might be an issue for him moving forward in the defensive end. He certainly plays with a lot of determination, and when gaining pucks back, he uses his skill level extremely effectively to navigate that puck into open ice and turn things around positively. He anticipates play well, shadowing forecheckers pretty effectively most of the time, and while he's not the most physical player out there, he is pretty good with his stick getting into the passing lanes and sneaking up on forecheckers to strip them of the puck. He stops transitions in open ice really effectively with his hand-eye coordination, and when he is facing pressure away from the puck, he is more than willing to battle hard and play with that determination to get the puck back. And I will say that as the year went on, his ability to shut down transitions on defense improved greatly. He was allowing defensive transitions to be done with control over 60% of the time in the first 3 games that I tracked. In the next 3 games that I tracked, that number was 25% or lower, but in the last game that I tracked, that number was up at 80%. But his overall percentage of 46.3% is pretty good for a center, especially one with a little bit of those mobility concerns that someone like Cole Perfetti has. But in the defensive zone, his general ability to shut down offensive cycles was really inconsistent. His lack of explosiveness caused him to lose track of offensive cycles, get caught flat-footed, get caught hanging out too high in the defensive zone towards the blue line, and opened up far too many passing lanes for opponents to maintain those cycles too easily. And when it came to actually engaging in defensive transitions, he had 4 times more offensive transitions that he was involved in than defensive ones. Part of that might come down to how good Saginaw was, but in my mind, centers should probably be involved in quite a few defensive transitions away from the puck, and Cole Perfetti felt like a player that was just not involved in those transitions as much as you might think. But with some improvements to his acceleration and his top speed and his willingness to employ it, there might be some better benefits for him defensively here, but he is a bit of a mixed bag in that area. He had some trouble engaging physically against some bigger and more physical opponents, but again, this is a player that I don't think you're drafting for his physical play. His best assets are when that puck is loose and he needs to break the puck out up the ice. But he was much more effective when it came to playing with his stick and applying pressure and forcing the opponent to make decisions with the puck. So overall in the get category, I'm giving Perfetti a 2C. I don't think this is necessarily a poor area of the game so much as it was more inconsistent. He certainly knew exactly what to do with that puck when it was loose and he needed to move it up the ice. That part of the game is absolutely not a problem for him. But being caught flat-footed a little bit too much, losing track of defensive cycles, opening up too much space for his opponents, and not really involving himself in a tremendous amount of defensive transitions all point me to the direction that there might be a little bit more work to be done here, or that you might need to surround Cole Perfetti with some more defensively responsible players at the next level. But with his ability to sneak up on opponents and stop play in transition with his stick and apply pressure to forecheckers to force them to make decisions, this is a player that I think will be competent at both ends of the ice at the next level, but will probably have much more of an offensive lean to his game as he develops. Next we go to the pass category, and this is where people really start to fall in love with Cole Perfetti. His skating on his edges combined with his skill with his hands is really remarkable, and he's able to open up a lot of ice really quickly and shake off defenders to look for passing options. Most of the time I came away with the impression that he was very responsible with the puck and not making a tremendous amount of poor passing decisions around the ice, but his raw pass completion percentage fluctuated greatly over the 7 games that I tracked. 2 of the games I tracked he was over 88% completion, 3 other games fluctuated between 70 and 75%, and 1 of the games I tracked he was way down at 62%. But when he was on, he was really on. The only thing I can really say about those missed pass attempts is that sometimes he just missed his target by a little bit and his teammates had a bit of trouble corralling that puck. But with more experience passing the puck, something that he does a lot, he should be able to improve that completion percentage as time goes by. This is a guy who I think could be a really effective puck mover at any position on the ice. He's steady as a rock on his feet, he's creative with his passing, he's able to spot teammates everywhere, and the passes that he made were always done with a clear purpose. He's another player like Marco Rossi who wasn't making dangerous pass attempts as much as maybe some other players that I've tracked, but whenever he did do it, there was a reason he was doing it, and those passes were completed more often than not. So in the pass category, I'm giving Perfetti a 1B. The only real knock I can have on him is the inconsistency in the raw completion rate, but there wasn't really any indication that he was making poor passing decisions. If anything, he was extremely responsible with the puck, mostly pretty conservative with his passing, just focusing on moving the puck up the ice with control, but when the time came to put that puck into the slot area, he did it with a lot of purpose, and there was a reason for him to do so. There's a lot to like about his passing game, and I think that this is going to be a major part of his game moving forward in the National Hockey League. Finally, we go to the shoot category, and there is a reason people call him Goal Perfetti. While just 58% of his shot attempts came from high or medium danger areas, that misses a very important little tidbit of context. He had 13.3 of those shot attempts per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, and that is good enough for 6th on my tracking list amongst all players that I've tracked this far. It's just that Cole Perfetti likes to shoot the puck a lot. So shooting it from low danger areas over 40% of the time does mask just how often he was getting dangerous shooting opportunities. From medium danger areas, he's an absolutely lethal shooter with a great shot and great skill to open up defenders and open up goaltenders and open up more of the net to shoot at. He was equally talented to me, whether he was just catching the puck and shooting it immediately or using his feet and his skill to cut into more dangerous areas and put defenders more on their heels. So in the shoot category, it's pretty straightforward. Perfetti gets another 1B. I think he's got a lot of potential as an all-around offensive dynamo, with his passing ability being as high level as it is all over the ice, and his shooting ability being excellent, and the only critique I can have from here is that maybe try to shoot the puck from those medium and high danger areas a little bit more often. He shot the puck a lot, but a lot of those chances came from low danger. So if that 58% high and medium danger shot attempt percentage can improve a little bit to be more up near the top of my tracking list, up around the 70% range, someone like Cole Perfetti could be an absolutely devastating offensive player in the National Hockey League. So the way that we wrap up these reports is we look at the best part of a player's game, the good part of a player's game, and the not so good part of a player's game. With Cole Perfetti, the best part of his game is his resiliency with the puck. He's an absolute rock on his feet. He's great on his edges. His skill is excellent. He's able to pivot away from defenders really quickly and open up ice and spot teammates more effectively. He can use those talents to also create more dangerous shooting opportunities for himself. And there's a lot to like in this area of the game, and he's an excellent example of how a player that isn't the fastest guy on the ice can still be an extremely effective hockey player. He's crafty, he's intelligent, and he's hard for a defender to really get on top of. And he can turn the jets on if he really needs to, but all in all, he's just an extremely resilient player that can be extremely hard to shut down when he's really cooking out there. Cole Perfetti is another one of these players where the good part of his game is almost interchangeable with the best part of his game. He's an extremely talented offensive player in general. His ability to drive dangerous shot attempts and pick his spots to make those dangerous pass attempts is really second to none. He's extremely good at it. He's 7th amongst all skaters that I've tracked so far in that offensive threat metric I've been bringing up a lot recently. And while 46% of that comes from his passing, which falls a little bit short of some other players in this range, he's still an extremely effective offensive player, whether it's passing or shooting the puck. So while he could get more chances from closer into the net more often, the rate of him getting those chances per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 was still very good, and his dangerous passing was much better when you look at it scaled per 60 minutes. The not so good part of his game is pretty clearly his skating and the shortcomings that it causes. While I do think the concerns about his skating as a whole are a little bit overanalyzed and a little bit overrated, it still is, in my opinion, the one thing that could hold him back from being a premier NHL talent. His footwork and lack of awareness from time to time really set him back in the defensive zone especially. He anticipated play well most of the time at the OHL level, but being caught flat-footed, losing track of defensive transitions too much in too many games, and floating around too much in the defensive zone, opening up passing options for his opponents a little bit too much, could also be something that holds him back, but those are things I think you can refine over time. It's just about those explosive first few steps and keeping up with defensive cycles a little bit better and developing that skill between now and when he hits the NHL. So overall, I'm giving Cole Perfetti a 1C. I really went back and forth with how I evaluated Cole Perfetti over the course of this season. In the first few games that I tracked, his inability to shut down defensive transitions was almost worrisome to me. But the data that I tracked in that area improved as the season went on, and he was more willing to use his feet and his intelligence and his patience to allow the play to come to him and use his stick to turn play around. His skating and passing metrics really left a lot to be desired early in the year, but again, that's another thing that improved as the year went on. And he really felt like a player that just got better and better as the year went on, especially in the areas of the game where he really excels. He's a crafty offensive player who enables positive play through his passing and puck protection. And he's an extremely responsible and intelligent player with the puck, especially when it comes to moving it up the ice with control and working with it in the offensive zone. And while I do prefer players that push pace with their own feet and play with the puck on their stick with a tremendous amount of skill at high speed, I do think that Cole Perfetti is a player that I perfectly can accept that bucks that trend. He's an absolute rock on his skates. He's great at evading defenders with the puck. His skill is excellent. His passing ability is very good, and his shooting instincts are extremely high level, and he loves to shoot the puck a lot. And I think all of those things put together more than make up for the downsides, and he's still pretty young, and you can take a little bit of time to develop him into the National Hockey League player you need. He could be a bit stronger on his feet, he probably should have a bit more of an explosive first few steps in his stride, and he might need to work on his skating mechanics a little bit over the next little while, but even if those things just get upgraded a little bit over the next little while, he could be a legitimately very scary offensive player, be it at center or the wing at the next level. So that's all for this Scouching Report. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, you can click all the buttons you see below me so you never miss another one. If you really liked it, you could subscribe on Patreon, where you get access to a Discord server, data sheets for hundreds of drafted and undrafted prospects, exclusive data visualizations, and plenty of other goodies. Or you could pick up some merchandise at the Scouchwear shop, where 50% of all profits go to the Women's Sports Foundation. So that's all, and thanks for watching.